I think what I'm going to do now is move on to the next bit of what the panel asked the panel to discuss, because I thought it'd be quite interesting to find out from each of them what their tip would be in terms of the reward profession. If you have to give advice in a world where we're moving to data analytics technology, what skills should a senior reward professional have? What would you advise somebody coming into the industry they should have? If you're trying to recruit somebody, what skills should you be looking at? And I know each of the panelists has had a think about various angles on that. So perhaps if I can start with David and sort of work my way down the line, if you just in a 30 seconds or so, give us what your tips are when it comes to this profession.
So I think one is looking at the macro environment. So I love Toria's point about, I want to understand AI, so how does it work externally? So look at the technology landscape and it's changing as it's coming in. Secondly, I saw some people wince when LinkedIn was mentioned, like think about professional networks and how you curate them and how you support them. And thirdly, I think there'll be an increasing reliance as we get topics like GDPR to explore things together. So rather than thinking about expertise sitting internally, think about the networks that you lean on to get all of that data within. So to be a professional at a senior level, increasingly, that's not just being an expert within your organization, it's actually thinking about the standing in the community and who you can lean on within it.
Ian.
Yeah, and I think, particularly think about a global reward role, I think if you're in a UK-specific role, you might be able to understand all of the legislation around all the benefits in great detail, but in a global role, you're not going to be able to do that. I think what's more important is to know what sort of questions you can ask the consultants and advisors who are the experts in each country, and then be able to create an innovative solution for your company based on those conversations that you have, and then be able to get the buy-in of colleagues to that proposal. And to do that, it's important that you can demonstrate a return on investment and that your proposal is backed up by factual evidence-based data, and also that, as well as being a good local solution, also aligns with the global reward strategy as well.
Well, I think as reward people, we're in a almost unique situation in terms of if you think about the employee costs of any organization, employee costs are either the largest cost. If they're not the largest cost, they're one of the largest costs in almost every, and reward professionals are basically in charge of that cost, and therefore their ability to influence the company's bottom line is really quite significant, so we shouldn't underestimate that. So I think it is about looking at it from that commercial purpose, and in particular think about when we're talking about employee benefits, of course there's the benefit to the employee, but what is the benefit to the organization as a result of doing that? And that will give us our steer into making really quite significant change in an organization by looking at the quantum that we have control over and the benefit that we can bring to the company, not just to the employee.
So just to build on what Roger said there about the influence on the bottom line, I think in terms of the skills that a reward professional nowadays would need are an understanding of statistics and algorithms, not to the extent of a data scientist, of course, but I think sensitivity towards how the things that we see in our everyday life as consumers, like using Netflix or Spotify, or things that seem to be more intelligent than they actually are because they're not sentient. We need to think about how we can take data of our employees and understand how we can tailor the experience for them. I think for me that is going to be cutting edge in the next few years. So I definitely focus on thinking about algorithms, and then of course statistically there's things like what Ian said before when it comes to gender pay analysis, for example, being able to do regressions and really understand where trends are buried within your organization by full and frank analysis of your data.
I think my advice would really be to look outside of reward when you're hiring for a reward team. I started my career in finance, the dark side, and moved across into reward, and probably thought about things very, very differently to my peers. And I've found that when I've really especially struggled in the external market to find reward professionals, I have looked internally at places in contact centres. I've had people out of payroll, out of finance, out of communications. And I think just getting somebody who's really passionate about your employee offering and bringing those new ideas to the table, I think really excites me, because you can't think of everything, you know, your team can't. So getting people who are wider than reward, I would just always recommend that you look away from just reward people as well when hiring.
Thank you very much to all 5 of you. Let's give them a big round of applause.